Hello and welcome to Power Partners. I hope you're ready. We got a great guest today. My name is Alexa Oliva and I'm one of your hosts, and I'm here with Mike Ibrahim.
How you doing, everybody? So today we have a special guest, JD. How you doing, JD?
Good. I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
I'm excited to interview you. We've been having a little bit of conversation before we got started,
Yes.
and let me tell you, you're amazing.
Well, thank you.
Amazing. What you have done, like a lot of people aren't going to know, but like you motivated yourself into a new industry and you took it by storm.
We're trying. We're getting there quick. That's for sure.
Yeah? Well, tell us a little bit about it.
So I've been in the fitness industry for just a better part of 3 decades now, and we've always been involved in optimization. And peptides kind of came onto the scene a few years ago bigger. They'd always been around, but they really entered the fitness scene in a big way in the last decade. So we saw an opportunity to kind of, in a very, I don't want to call it a gray market, but in a very uncertain market with a lot of vendors kind of not being transparent and stuff, we saw an opportunity to really give customers a very transparent look at the industry with really thorough COAs, is what we call them, certificates of analysis showing our purity and other things about these components, and really trying to offer a more, I don't want to say honest, but a more, well, like I said before, transparent, safe solutions, transparent, and really, and kind of back that up with some really good customer service.
What kind of background did you have in order to, like, how did you get into it? When did you make that decision to get into something like this? Because that's not your background.
Well, I kind of fell into it. So I was taking peptides myself to recover from a couple injuries, and I was getting them from a certain source. And then I looked into the COAs of those, and I kind of saw a lab that was producing them. And I reached out directly to that lab, started to research a little bit more, and then I continued to do that from kind of lab to lab to lab. Started vetting these labs until I found labs that I really thought
And they were receptive to you?
They were very receptive to me. You know, they understood the research market that we're in. And just to be clear, we sell these as under the research only market, and they're really not promoted for human use. So they're really meant to be researched by these people. But we were really intent on finding the best and the purest products so this research could be accurate that people were doing.
And so you were actually taking them while you were researching them?
I was taking them personally, yes. Yeah.
Nice.
So,
and what is the difference when you went from lab to lab? Like, what makes a lab better than another lab?
well, you know, communications first off. You know, when you have a lab that can communicate with you well and deliver well, of course, that's a big plus. But then, you know, delivery time, you know, the wait times, lead times on getting products is very important. You know, we're running a store, and we want to make sure that we don't run out of product. Or it's hard to predict too far in advance when you're going to run low on stock. So you want a reliable source that can get you stuff in time. But the big one was really quality and purity. And I think we went a little farther than that. A lot of people are advertising over 99% pure. But what they're making is they're getting a lot of products out of China that are very cheap, and they're made very quickly. And although they show up as pure, what happens is, and not to get too scientific, but what we get is truncated proteins and stuff like that in these things where it falls short of complete synthesis. And that lessens the bioavailability of these products where they don't work as well. Even though they show as pure, they just don't have the same effects. So we really did more complete testing. And really, you know, we had some research partners that, you know, athletes that were, you know, involved, that we could really see
the effects.
The effects, yeah.
The
But
results.
Also, yeah,
The
but
results,
also
yeah.
the China is in like, it's messing up the market itself because people are confused. They don't know what purity really means. And China has never been safe because I seen it long time.
Yeah.
Like a long time ago, they were advertising like the vendors, and they were selling. They're really unlicensed.
Yeah, and there's a lot of problems with endotoxins and stuff like that, and simply getting stuff that isn't even what it says it is. And this is why, you know, we don't just take our vendors' words for them. We get a lot from our vendor, and then we take random samples out of that. We send it to our own third-party labs. We have it retested. We make sure our purity is over 99%. And in cases, even our GLPs, our GLP-1 or GLP-2 and what we call GLP-3, which is the big one now, the retatrutide, We are testing at over 99.9% pure. We believe we're about the highest in the market. In fact, we think we've reached the limits of measurable purity, that you can't measure it any farther than this. So 99.9 is the highest measurable purity.
But I noticed this is how you carry yourself in all your businesses.
Yes.
We try.
Because your other businesses are successful too.
Well, thank you.
You know, you're an entrepreneur. You have multiple hats.
We got
and
a
it looks
lot of irons in the fire.
Yeah, and me working with you, I noticed too that like you like perfection. You really like an active owner. You are on top of it. You have the team. You do what it takes.
Yeah.
So what else out there beside the peptide that you perfected like this?
Well, we've been in the sign and graphic business before this. This is what I've been doing for the last 21 years now.
That's tough business.
and yes, it's a low margin business, so you have to put out a lot of work and you have to be good at it. And so I think that's the one thing I took away from doing that for 21 years. So we know that a lot of people can produce a good product, and a lot of people can do it at a good price, but you really have to combine that with really good customer service. And I think that's where connecting with people, we knew throughout the years, building trust and connecting with people and holding their hand through the process was one of the biggest selling points of that business. And I think what I learned in I don't think I could have built Biogenic Peptides to what it was had I not learned what I learned in 21 years in that industry.
Yeah.
That was simply like, people they want their hand held through a process, especially in a market now that has so much distrust. To have somebody who can answer the phone, who can talk to you, who can,
it's a confusing market.
Yeah,
well, it's not just that. You've actually tested the products.
We've
that
tested
makes
the
a big
product.
difference.
Absolutely.
Some of these doctors don't know what it's like to have the pain or the results from some of the stuff that they're recommending.
Yeah.
You have.
Well, and it's a funny thing is when you go to a doctor, you just assume you're getting something good. Well, they're buying them from 503 and 503A and 503B compounding pharmacies themselves that because that industry is considered not in the gray market, people just automatically trust it. So there is no third-party testing for most of that stuff. They're just making them and selling them. Whereas we're actually, in this research-only market, we're held to an actual higher standard. People want to see the test. They want to, because there is a level of kind of mysteriousness or distrust in that. So we have to be more proactive and have to be more thorough in what we do.
Okay, so we're going to move away from that business section right
Sure.
now, because in Power Partners, we're more interested in your mindset, how you're getting these things done, where you got to put your focus in. So let's talk about some of that focus issues that most of us have.
So, I guess that's an interesting question, because I feel like it always goes back to the business where I'm focusing on the business, and that's in the customer relationships. But I think, that's an interesting question. Is that one in my personal life you want to know where I'm focused, or in my business world?
No, in your brain.
In my brain?
In that brain.
So when you wake up, like the focus and the self-motivation and everything that you start with in the beginning of the day to achieve, because what you do is not easy.
No.
Most people really can't handle it. You have a lot of people that work with you, so there's a lot of accountability. You have to follow up. You take care of the customer journey. You take care of your employees, salaries, and there is a lot going on a daily basis.
Well, I think that's then this question does become easy to answer, because I think there's a lot of people who can go to bed at night just saying, okay, I made X amount of dollars, and they don't really care of any collateral, right? Yeah. I think the money is what comes secondary to us, and it's knowing that, number one, our customers are taken care of, and number two, our employees are taken care of at all the businesses. I think that's my motivator in the day, is to make sure that, that's what we built in both businesses, is in what we take the greatest pride in, is that the people involved in it are well taken care of, and that we've built a very good culture in that business. And I think it becomes second nature. It doesn't, I guess I don't think of it as a motivator, because it's just become part of me, is that, and we've done it for years. I think we put our customers and our employees ahead of ourselves for the most part. And I think making sure that their lives are fulfilled and their questions are answered both in both places, customer and employee alike, just becomes the motivator.
That's a good culture. That's a beautiful culture.
That's an excellent culture.
Thank you.
Excellent culture. How did you establish that culture and get that, momentum going in your business?
What made you decide to do that for the people around you? Because I'm sure when you were working, when you were growing up, and you were working, it wasn't like that.
Everybody treated you that way, right?
Well, you know, I worked for years in manufacturing, and I was a machinist, you know, and I think the time spent in that, you just became another number. You were just there was an A shift, a B shift, and a C shift, and you were kind of just another number. You came in and you took over a guy's place, and you got on a machine and you started work. And there was no real personal connections, and personally, I'd never liked bosses, you know. And so I think when we built this business, I never wanted to be the boss that I had previously. I made sure that the guys around me, ladies and gentlemen that were working for me, all felt like they were part of a team. And that if anything, I was a team leader. Leadership.
But
not a boss. And I think I never liked the word boss. You know, being a team leader or you know, I think that's a better representation of the position. And I think leading from the front too, you know, there was never anything that I would ask them to do that I wouldn't do myself. And even when we were, you know, a younger company, you know, as the company grew, obviously our roles became more specific. And I didn't spend as much time out, you know, on trucks doing installs and stuff like that. But early on, you know, I would get in the same place as they would, go up the same heights as they would, hands on. And that, I think that earned respect from them. And it motivated them to work harder when they see the boss working. They want to work too.
The most successful leaders I noticed in the industries is the ones that lead by example. And I noticed that since day one, you're always involved in the small stuff and the big stuff. But you know how to delegate too. I
do know how to delegate. I can still have the tendency to micromanage, and I have to pull away from that. And I think you've seen it probably in the Biogenics peptides that you know, when you create a brand, it becomes your baby. And it's very hard to let go of that or give that pieces of that to people because you know, you get so worried about do they recognize it the way I want to recognize it. So, but that's part of a personal growth struggle of my own, you know what I mean? And that's, you know, as I grow and I start to learn to delegate, you know, that you do realize it frees you up. Yeah. And there is something, and it also empowers the people around you. So
and you grow faster.
Yeah. And that's been a struggle of mine, even from the beginning, is, you know, you have to learn.
All high achievers, I think, struggle with this.
Sure. You have to learn to give up a little power.
Of course, the control. You got to let go of the control to grow.
But when you do it and you realize that it empowers the people around you and that they become better because you're not babying them and babysitting them, well, it does give you a sense of freedom. All of a sudden, you can relax.
You just have to accept the fact that they're going to do mistakes.
Absolutely. And they're going to learn from them, though.
Yeah, and they're going to learn from it. And the mistakes they're going to do, they're like, oh, my God, I can't believe they did it. But that's how they really grow. And you give them their freedom to not be afraid of trying. And that gives you strength because now you have all these people giving 100%.
Yeah. Well, I think the question I always ask myself, if I do see a mistake and I have you know, if I even sense for a second that I'm getting upset about it, I would say to myself, JD, could you have made that same mistake? And if the answer is yes, then I can instantly say, well, you know, then he's going to learn from it. If I could have made that mistake, then I would have learned from it. So will he. So, you know, it kind of, it takes away that corrective measure that I need to make. I say he's going to learn from it. So I don't need to stand in. I don't need to tell him where he's gone wrong. He's going to, you know. So and there is no better teacher than a mistake. No, there is nothing that you'll learn from better than a mistake.
And you create processes for them to minimize these kind of mistakes. But all this work, all this energy, all this focus. What about the balance? People say balance, you know, work-life balance and all that. All that.
Well, that'd be one for my therapist. I don't know the answer to that yet. You know, I think we're looking for that. You know, we are. So in the sign business, we're in the middle of a merger and acquisition right now, where we're going to become a much larger company. We're kind of combining with a few other companies to making some acquisitions after, and I think my role will lessen because I've got some new leaders coming into play that can really take charge of some things. So I'm looking to maybe finally, after, you know, 2.5 decades of doing this, find that balance. Because you know, me and Amy have built a great life together, but I'm not sure that we have found the time for ourselves that we'd really like. So this is a life goal. I'd be lying if I said we've achieved that yet. So that's a tough one.
I honestly, for me, if you ask me, I don't believe in something called work-life balance because work and life, they are combined. You can enjoy both. Yeah. You can, you know, work hard and enjoy, you know, big vacations and live life, you know. But if you love what you do, it doesn't really need a balance anymore because
You know what? That's true.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah.
You don't have to look for the balance when you are in balance.
Yep. And I think a big part of that, too, is I think, we forget to be grateful. If you can wake up every day, I made it a habit recently. So when I wake up and I'm making the bed, I think of all the things and people I'm grateful for. And it's a great way to start the day. And it kind of disarms those defense mechanisms or those little things that we have that we want to go, those things that you think you have to be angry about or whatever, when you can think of the gratitude you have for everybody, it resets you for the day. And I think that's something,
It does.
that's something I've learned recently. I can't say that's been part of me forever because that's a recent
it's
growth.
easy to be reactive when things happen, but if you pause for like a minute and you just like, life is great.
Yes, exactly. You have to remind yourself sometimes.
We achieved, because when you in the grind and you growing and there's so many moving parts, you really don't take a chance to give yourself credit to what you are achieving. You be like, there's growth, but hold on. Did you actually recognize all the growth that happened along the way? Once you do that, it gives you a sense of, gratitude, appreciation.
True.
You know what I've been doing lately? I've been microdosing my growth.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I want to know more about that one.
Yeah. I've been microdosing. Like, I'm preparing to start working out, so I started preparing a couple of weeks ago. What am I doing? I have to get my equipment in order, so I'll move one of the equipment to the section where I'm going to build in the house. And then, I haven't started working out yet, but I got my basket full of my clothes so I can grab and go in the morning, and my sneakers and my, all the stuff that I need in order to work out. And then another weekend I'm preparing my vitamins so that I can make sure that I'm taking my vitamin. And so it's been very like microdosing.
So you take the overall goal and you make mini goals with
I'm
it.
doing mini goals, and everybody's going like,
well, it's more digestible, right?
Yeah.
It's easier. It's
Yes.
easier that way. Yeah.
So I've been converting. Like, now I started a new skincare regimen. So it's like I got to add 7 minutes to my skincare regimen now.
Right.
And so I call that microdosing my progress.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a good strategy.
Yeah. It's been working.
We can overwhelm ourselves so easily when we just look at a goal and think you have to get there immediately.
Exactly.
If you can break that down into digestible steps.
I'm just very slowly. It's like snail progression.
That's hard. That's hard to do, though. Sometimes you have a personality that wants to take a big bite of the apple, and it's so you have to pull it back, right?
I do. No, and my personality is run until you can't run no more.
Me too.
And it's like, I remember last night I was just like taking a breath after everything I was doing, and Val walks in and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, she's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, I'm just recuperating. Give me a moment, because it was 10:30 at night and I'm still, I drive myself nuts.
Oh, I can do it. And you get wired on the whole, like, your motivation it can overstimulate you sometimes.
Yes.
That laying in bed with the leg moving and thinking and thinking and thinking. At
So
some
I'd rather
point
not
you gotta
lay
have
in
a cut.
bed.
Yeah.
I just drop into bed.
Yeah.
My cutter is usually, what I do is, I don't do weekends, by the way. I work 7 days. So I've been working 7 days for years. I always do that. So I work 7 days, no matter what. Every day I'm working on something. But 30 to 45 days, then I stop and I take 5 days somewhere, like Italy, Greece.
Oh, well, see,
travel,
this is nice,
Dead Sea. And what happens is I come back after 5 days. And if you really look at it, it's people take weekends off, it works for them. But it's 2 days a week. That's 8 days a month.
Yeah.
I'm only doing 5 days in like 2 months. But those 5 days, when I come back to work, it doesn't feel like I took a weekend.
Yeah.
It feels like I just came back from a vacation.
Well, I think we forget, too. I think a lot of times the work we do and the goals we have become the lifestyle, and we forget that they're meant to support a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And and you're saying, like, yes, you put in all that work, but you do it like a marathon, but you take a nice big break, So there's a reward. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. There's
Work
something
hard,
you're giving
play
yourself.
hard.
Yes. And
Yeah.
let me tell you what was handicapping me. My daughter was in school. So it's like always there's school attachment. So I'm like, so I'm taking these things with my wife sometimes, if I can with my kids. So I homeschooled my daughter. And since I started doing that, I'm like, now it's becoming like a family trip.
Yeah.
So even though my family sees me like working 7 days a week, like me, they're waiting for that 5-day trip.
I like it. I like
right,
it.
right.
I always have like a trip a couple of weeks out, You know what I'm saying? And then I'm like, oh, it's coming. But what I find myself with these trips now is now I don't want them to come when I have them booked.
Really?
Yes. I get down and I'm like, oh, it's next week already? Now starts the overdrive. You know what I mean? You got to prepare really hard to take that week off. And then when you get back, you're bombarded.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the bad thing, too, is, we take these vacations. You come back to 500 emails in your inbox. And you're like, what good was the vacation? All it did was push everything into this log jam. So
I have a solution for that.
What?
So the first thing you do when you come back from your trip, you don't start working right away. The first day, you start briefing. Like looking what's going on in the company.
Oh, you're just like Bert. He always makes us come back one day early so that we can decompress.
Just brief, digest. I'm like, okay, so now you see what's happening. Day 2, then you start looking at the problems. But you have to have people that you trust and rely on because you can't leave if there's nobody to.
Oh no,
Right.
for sure.
Oh, and we're very,
you can't
very
just turn off your
fortunate.
business. I'm on vacation. Turn off the
That's
business.
one thing. We have a great team. We've surrounded ourselves with an amazing team of people that really. In fact, I think they like it when we leave for a little while because it empowers them. It lets them show us what they can do without us, and it's very healthy for them.
And when you come back to them, just to get back to that subject, you don't want to point out the problem. You probably day 1, you already seen all the mistakes they shouldn't do.
It's defeating though. You can't do that to them.
So what you want to do is, okay, you digest it, and then day 1 you brief. Day 2, you start going with management. Like, okay, I see this and this and this has happened. How could we handle it better?
Yeah.
And now you let them be creative. What happens is you're transitioning slowly into the environment of work versus coming back from the vacation. I used to do that.
Yeah.
I used to land
And then everybody
midnight,
attacks you.
Land midnight, 8 a.m. meeting.
Everybody's attacking you.
Well, I think the big thing you have to learn too is there's a difference between somebody doing something wrong and somebody doing something different than the way you do it. And I think when you're new to building a business, anything different than the way you would do it is wrong. And then you have to learn when you empower people, they're not going to do it the way you do it. But that doesn't mean they're doing it wrong.
As long as they get results.
You want them to do it your way because
Proper
that's who they are.
results. Yeah.
If you try to make everybody fit your mold, you're bending people into positions they don't work in. Once you learn to accept them, that they do it a different way, I think that's when you can free yourself up and let people. That's when you empower people, and you empower yourself by doing it too. You free yourself.
That's a big game changer. Like the way you
JD,
think.
you're amazing. I can't wait to continue to have more and more conversations with you. We've been talking for like 2 hours nonstop.
That's right.
And enjoyed all of it, but I know that you have a busy day. And but how does the audience get in touch with you?
How does the audience get in touch with me? They can go to our website, biogenicpeptides.com. They can look at our thing, and they can always reach out. There's all sorts of support contact information. We have a support email. We have you can get to me via we have a 1-800 or 1-888 toll-free line. They can reach out. They can email us through the website. There's 100 ways to get to us, and you can ask us any question. We're very responsive, and somebody will get back to you right away on anything.
That is
This
awesome.
was amazing. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate your presence today.
Well, thank you for having me.
And we will see you guys on Power Partners on the next episode.
Thank you.